10 years ago, Dubai was glowing under the warm desert night. The air smelled faintly of the sea from the Arabian Gulf, and the skyline shimmered with gold lights. In the heart of downtown, inside a private rooftop lounge overlooking the Burj Khalifa, the city's elite gathered to celebrate the close of a record-breaking business deal. Alexander Drake was at the center of it all. At only 32, he had already built a billion-dirham empire from scratch: luxury real estate, high-end hospitality, and private investments that made him one of the youngest billionaires in the UAE. He was used to winning, used to admiration, used to people bending over backwards for his attention. And then he noticed her. She didn't belong to that glittering crowd. She was working, weaving through the lounge with a tray of drinks balanced on one hand, her long dark hair tied neatly, her crisp white shirt slightly damp from the humidity. Her name tag read Lena. For a moment, their eyes met. She looked away quickly, focusing on the guests, but something about her lingered in his mind. Later that night, after the party thinned and the music softened, Alexander found her by the staff exit. She was waiting for her ride, arms crossed, gazing out at the city below. "Do you always disappear before midnight?" he asked. She smiled faintly, but didn't turn toward him. "Some of us have to work again tomorrow." One conversation turned into another, and before they knew it, they were walking along Jumeirah Beach under the quiet moonlight. No one watching, no flashing cameras, no gold-plated walls between them. Just two strangers sharing the kind of honesty that only happens when you think you'll never see each other again. It was supposed to be just one night. Neither of them knew that night would follow them for the rest of their lives. 10 years can change everything. For Alexander Drake, those years were filled with boardroom battles, luxury launches, and constant expansion. His name became a brand in Dubai, splashed across skyscrapers, exclusive resorts, and even private islands. But in all that time, he never thought once about the quiet waitress from that night. Or at least, that's what he told himself. On a rare rainy evening, one of those sudden Gulf storms that make the streets shimmer like mirrors, Alexander stepped out of his chauffeured Maybach in front of the Drake Holdings tower. His driver rushed to open the umbrella, shielding him from the downpour. Across the street, life moved differently. Neon lights from a small, old cafeteria flickered against the wet pavement. The scent of shawarma and karak tea floated through the air. And there, under the narrow awning, sat a woman on the ground, her arms wrapped around two children. The twins couldn't have been more than 8. Their clothes were drenched, hair plastered to their faces. They huddled together for warmth, rainwater pooling around their bare feet. Alexander slowed, something in the scene pulling at him. The woman's head was bowed, her dark hair falling forward, but when she glanced up, just for a second, recognition hit him like a punch. Lena. Her eyes widened for a brief moment, then she looked away quickly, holding the children tighter as if to hide them from him. The rain kept falling, but Alexander stood frozen on the curb, his billion-dirham world suddenly feeling very, very small. Alexander didn't think. He stepped off the curb, crossing the rain-slick street, ignoring the driver calling after him. Up close, the storm felt colder. The twins looked at him with wide, wary eyes. Lena's shoulders stiffened, her body instinctively shielding them. "Lena?" His voice was lower than he expected, almost uncertain. She didn't answer at first. Instead, She studied his face, the sharp jawline, the tailored suit, the same piercing gray eyes she remembered, and then looked away. "You shouldn't be here," she said finally. "I could say the same to you," he replied. "Why are you sitting out here in the rain?" She gave a short laugh, bitter, tired. "Because when you can't pay rent, the rain isn't your biggest problem." He glanced at the children again. They were identical. Same dark hair, same warm brown eyes. Eyes that felt uncomfortably familiar. "Are they?" he began. "Don't," she cut him off sharply. "You don't get to ask." For a moment, neither spoke. The rain was a steady curtain between their worlds, his dry, powerful, untouchable, hers soaked, fragile, exposed. Finally, Alexander said, "Come with me. At least get out of the rain." Lena shook her head. "I don't need your charity." "This isn't charity," he said, his voice firm. "It's common sense." She hesitated, just long enough for one of the twins to cough, shivering in her arms. And without another word, Alexander took off his jacket, draped it over the children, and waited. Lena stared at him for a long moment, rain dripping from her hair, lips pressed into a thin line. Finally, she stood, adjusting the jacket around the twins. "Just until they're warm," she said quietly. "Then we'll go." Alexander nodded, not pushing her further. He led them to the waiting Maybach, the driver rushing to open the door. The twins' eyes widened at the plush leather seats, the soft glow of the interior lights, the faint scent of expensive cologne. Lena slid in after them, sitting rigid, as if the luxury might swallow her whole. Alexander closed the door behind her and took the seat across from them. "Home, sir?" the driver asked. Alexander hesitated. "Number, the Ritz-Carlton." Lena shot him a look. "We don't need—" "It's close," he interrupted. "And it's dry." The car glided through the rain-slick streets, past glass towers and neon signs, the hum of the engine the only sound between them. When they arrived, a staff member rushed forward with umbrellas. The moment they stepped inside, warmth wrapped around them, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, the quiet luxury of a place built for people who never had to think about money. Alexander checked them in without hesitation. Lena stood back, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. In the suite, he ordered hot food and warm drinks for the twins, who clung to her legs until the smell of fresh bread and soup finally pulled them to the table. Alexander watched them eat, his mind turning over the same question again and again. Finally, he asked it. "Lena, are they mine?" She froze mid-bite. The twins looked up, confused. Lena set her spoon down, meeting his eyes with a look that held 10 years of anger, hurt, and something else he couldn't quite name. "You walked away," she said softly. "You don't get to ask that now." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the quiet hum of the air conditioning. The twins had gone back to eating, but Lena's eyes never left Alexander's. "I didn't walk away," he said carefully. "It was one night. We didn't make plans." Lena gave a faint, humorless laugh. "You're right. We didn't. And when I found out I was pregnant 2 months later, I didn't think you'd care." Alexander leaned forward. "Why wouldn't I care?" She tilted her head, almost pitying him. "Because men like you don't change their lives for women like me. You had an empire to run, a public image to protect, and I was just a waitress." He opened his mouth to speak, but she went on. "I was terrified. I'd only been in Dubai for a year, working double shifts to send money back home. My visa was tied to that job. The father of my children was a billionaire who probably wouldn't even remember my name. So I left. Left where? Abu Dhabi. Cheaper rent. Fewer people who knew me. I worked in cafes, cleaned apartments, anything to keep a roof over our heads. Then when the twins were born, her voice softened, eyes dropping to the children. Every dirham I earned went to food, diapers, and rent. There wasn't room for anything else. Alexander's jaw tightened. And now? Why were you out there in the rain? She looked at him for a long, hard moment before answering. Because last week, I lost my job. The landlord gave me until tonight to pay or leave. We had nowhere else to go. The words hit him like a blow. He glanced at the twins. Two small lives he might have never known existed. Alexander leaned back in his chair, his mind spinning. The storm outside had softened into a steady drizzle, the city lights glowing faintly through the tall windows. Inside, the twins were curled up on the sofa now, drowsy from the warmth and food. 10 years. 10 years of living his life, deals, jets, private islands, while they struggled in silence just a few hours away. He ran a hand over his face. Lena, you should have told me. Her reply was quiet but sharp. And what would you have done? Given me a check to make me disappear? Married me out of guilt? I didn't want pity? It's not pity, he said firmly. It's responsibility. They're my children, and I want to be in their lives. Lena crossed her arms. It's not that simple, Alex. They don't know you. To them, you're a stranger in a suit. Then let me change that. She studied him, searching for the man she'd known for just one night. The man who'd walked barefoot with her along Jumeirah Beach, laughing like he didn't have the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Finally, she said, they need stability. Not just money, not someone who will disappear when business gets in the way. Alexander's voice was steady. I'm not going to disappear. Lena hesitated, then glanced at the twins. We'll see. He didn't push further. Instead, he stood, walked to the desk, and made a call. Within minutes, a staff member arrived with a key card and a message. The suite is yours for as long as you need it, Alexander said. You're not going back out into the rain. Lena didn't thank him, but she also didn't refuse. The next morning, sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the suite. The storm had passed, leaving the city washed clean. The twins were sitting on the carpet, playing with a set of small toy cars left by hotel staff. Alexander stood in the doorway, watching them. They didn't notice him at first, too caught up in their imaginary race. For a man who could negotiate billion-dirham contracts without breaking a sweat, he suddenly felt unsure. Finally, he stepped forward. Hey, he said softly. Two pairs of brown eyes turned toward him. The boy looked curious. The girl held her toy car a little tighter. I'm Alexander, he said. But you can call me Alex. The boy tilted his head. Are you Mummy's friend? He glanced at Lena, who was watching from the sofa, her arms crossed but her eyes softer than before. Something like that, he replied. He sat down on the carpet, his expensive suit trousers creasing against the plush rug. Can I join the race? The girl looked at her brother, then at him. Do you have a car? Alexander smiled. Not yet, but I can borrow one. He picked up a small blue toy car from the pile, rolling it across the carpet. This one looks fast. At first they were shy, but within minutes, laughter filled the room. Alexander found himself on all fours, racing toy cars through makeshift tunnels built from pillows, his tie dangling loosely around his neck. From the sofa, Lena watched quietly. For the first time in years, the lines of worry on her face began to fade. By the third day at the hotel, Alexander had started rearranging his schedule in ways his assistants didn't recognize. Board meetings were postponed. Calls were handled late at night. His mornings were now spent eating breakfast with the twins and Lena in the quiet corner of the Ritz-Carlton restaurant. One morning, while the twins chased each other around the table, Alexander leaned closer to Lena. "You can't keep living like you have been," he said. "No job security, no home, no backup plan." She sipped her tea slowly. "You think I don't know that?" "I'm saying I can fix it." Her eyes narrowed. "You mean you can throw money at it?" He shook his head. "Not just money, stability, a permanent home, education for the twins, a future." Lena set her cup down. "And in return, what do you expect?" "Nothing," he said. Then, after a pause, "Except the chance to be their father." She looked away, watching the children. "They've been fine without you for 8 years." Alexander's voice softened. "Fine isn't enough. They deserve more than just getting by." He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. Inside were property documents, a modest but beautiful villa in a quiet neighborhood, fully paid for. Lena's hand hovered over it, hesitant. "Why?" "Because I don't want my children to wonder where they'll sleep next month." For a moment she didn't speak. Then she said quietly, "Let me think about it." That night, after the twins had fallen asleep in the hotel suite, Lena sat by the window, the lights of Dubai shimmering against the dark sky. She held the property documents in her hands, the weight of them far heavier than the paper itself. A villa, a safe place for her children. No more landlords banging on the door, no more choosing between rent and food. But it came from Alexander. He was sitting at the desk across the room, scrolling through something on his laptop, pretending to give her space. She knew he was waiting for her answer. Finally, she spoke. "Do you know what it feels like to fight for every dirham? To wake up every day not knowing if you can make it to the next?" Alexander looked up. "Number I don't. But I know what it feels like to lose something you can't get back. I don't want that to be my children." Lena sighed. "Accepting this. It feels like admitting I couldn't do it on my own." He closed the laptop and walked over to her. "It's not about you failing, Lena. It's about me finally doing my part." She searched his face, trying to find any trace of pity. But what she saw was determination, and maybe regret. "I'll take it," she said finally, "but only if you promise one thing." "Anything." "You don't get to disappear again, not for business, not for anything." Alexander nodded. "I promise." 2 weeks later, Lena stood at the entrance of a quiet villa tucked away in one of Dubai's family-friendly neighborhoods. White walls gleamed under the sun. A small garden lined with palm trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the scent of freshly cut grass filled the air. The twins darted past her, their laughter echoing through the empty rooms as they explored every corner. Alexander followed behind them, a faint smile on his face as he watched their joy. "They've never had their own rooms before," Lena said, her voice softer now. "They do now," Alexander replied, "and they always will." The movers finished bringing in the furniture Alexander had arranged, nothing over the top but high quality and comfortable. The twins quickly claimed their rooms, arguing over who had the better window view. Lena walked into the kitchen, running her fingers over the new countertops. This doesn't feel real. Alexander leaned against the doorway. Get used to it. Over the next few days, the house came alive. Lena cooked in the mornings. The twins rode their bikes in the small street outside, and Alexander stopped by almost every evening. Sometimes he brought dinner, sometimes just himself, but always with the same intention to be present. One evening, as the twins dragged him into the living room to play another board game, Lena stood at the kitchen counter watching them. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't dared to hope for: security. Weeks turned into months, and Alexander's presence became part of the rhythm of their lives. At first, the twins treated him like a guest, polite, curious, but cautious. Slowly, that began to change. On weekends, he took them to Jumeirah Beach early in the morning, teaching them how to swim in the calm waters before the crowds arrived. He bought them simple fishing rods and showed them how to cast a line from the pier. Back at the villa, they would help him wash his car, more soap on each other than on the actual vehicle. Lena watched all of it quietly. She still carried pieces of the past, unanswered questions, unspoken feelings. But she couldn't deny what she saw. The twins trusted him now. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Alexander stayed behind in the kitchen. He leaned on the counter, looking at Lena. I need to know. Back then, why did you never even try to reach me? Not even once? She hesitated, her hands tightening around a teacup. Because the night we met, you told me you didn't believe in relationships. You said love was a distraction. I figured if I told you, you'd see them as exactly that. A distraction from your empire. He was quiet for a moment. I was wrong back then. Her eyes lifted to meet his. And now? Now. I know they're the most important thing I've ever been part of. Lena didn't reply, but her silence wasn't cold this time. It was thoughtful. It was a warm evening in Dubai, the kind where the sky turns gold before fading into deep indigo. Lena sat in the villa's small garden, watching the twins chase each other between the palm trees. Their laughter carried into the air like music. Alexander stepped outside, 2 mugs of tea in hand. He set one in front of her and took the seat beside her. For a moment, they just watched the children play. They're happy here, she said quietly. They should be, he replied. They're finally home. She turned to him. And you? Is this really the life you want? Boardrooms one day, bedtime stories the next? He smiled faintly. It's the only life that feels real. For years their paths had been oceans apart, his filled with wealth and power, hers with struggle and sacrifice. Yet here they were, side by side, bound by 2 small souls who carried pieces of them both. Alexander glanced at her, his voice steady. I can't change the years I missed Lena, but I can promise you this. I won't miss another one. She studied his face for a moment, searching for any sign of doubt. She found none. Then I guess we start from here, she said. The twins came running over, breathless and smiling, each taking one of Alexander's hands. Without a word, they pulled him toward the house, their laughter echoing through the garden. And for the first time in a decade, Lena felt certain about the future.